Hi, I'm Mike Brewer, pastor of the Blue Ash Presbyterian Church. Welcome to Mike's midweek message, an effort to keep us in touch with one another, even though so many of our worship services are canceled and many of the gatherings that we would normally be enjoying have been postponed for the foreseeable future. This is a short 5-minute uplifting message to bring us together and to remind us that God is still in control in an uncertain world. A few weeks ago, my wife and I spent a few days at the Outer Banks. It was too early to go swimming, too chilly and cold, but it was wonderful weather for walking on the beach, and we spent a lot of times walking, watching the waves roll in, searching for odds and ends on the beach, bits of driftwood and shells, and I started coming across something that I had been vaguely aware of before. Locals call it a mermaid's purse. Here's what it looks like. If I can get this in front of the camera. There, yeah, you can see it there. Not particularly attractive. My granddaughter said it looks like a dead crab. It's black and hollow and lightweight, but I saw a number of these as we were out walking, and I brought a few home. As I said, the locals call them a mermaid's purse, but when I looked it up, it turns out it's something I would never have guessed. I assumed these were some kind of plants washing up on shore. They're not. They are in fact the abandoned egg cases of stingrays and skates, a fish very similar to a stingray. If you were the adventuresome sort and you were scuba diving or snorkeling and you saw some of these tangled in the seaweed at the bottom of the sea, you probably wouldn't give them a second look. And if you did, your reaction might be, oh my goodness, that's the ugliest plant I've ever seen. But in fact, you'd be seeing something that is in process. You'd be seeing a life taking shape and getting ready to emerge into the world. Now, I don't know about you, but one of my favorite fish to look at when I visit the aquarium are the stingrays. I think they are so graceful. They are like underwater birds, and I can watch the flapping of their fins and their graceful, splendid motions through the water for hours on end if I had the opportunity. It's hard to believe that something that beautiful can come out of this ugly, hooked, black egg case that is so unattractive. But that's the way the world is. We often cannot see where things are leading. We know God is at work, but we can't always figure out what God is doing or how God is doing it. In these very uncertain times, with the coronavirus taking its toll and public health so much a major issue, and so many dislocations and interruptions present in our life, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know what comes next, but we live in the confidence that God is in charge, that God is bringing something good out of these circumstances. In the early verses of Paul's letter to the church in Philippi, he says, I know that the one who began a good work in you will bring it to completion in the day of Jesus Christ. That is our confession of faith. Even if we don't know what's coming next, even if we find ourselves in difficult circumstances, we believe that God will finish what God has begun. Let's be honest with ourselves. We are unfinished people, living in unfinished relationships and unfinished families, making our way in an unfinished world. And sometimes in an unfinished life or an unfinished world, there is harshness and pain, there is grief and setback. There are, let's be honest, some ugly times that we pass through. But our conviction as Christians is that the ugliness is not the last word. It is a step toward something beautiful that God has in mind. And we believe that grief will give way to grace, and that suffering will give way finally to joy. And in the end, love will convert all the harsh edges and hard times of life into something more amazing and wonderful than we can imagine. something that God has had planned all along. So if you stumble across something in yourself or in your life or in your day-to-day that seems as ugly as a mermaid's purse, all hooked and black and hollow and lifeless, you might step back for a moment and say, I wonder what God is planning. I wonder what God is going to make of me, make of this situation, make of this world. So from one unfinished pilgrim to another, until I see you again at our next midweek Mike's message, I bid you to be safe and be careful, be faithful as we watch together the unfolding of God's amazing will, the God who will surely bring to completion everything that he has begun in us and in our world. Thanks. Have a good day.